And I did this because, I mean, I call this and I want to talk to everybody. We've done this once, but in particular, it's because our representative, Mr. Rob Robertson, had said that it's probably time for Starkville to have a project of some kind and to go forward with a request of some order of magnitude. So I wanted everyone to think about what it was we wanted to do. And I had my own project in mind, which I was, pretty well told that, yeah, you do, but so do I. So I want everybody to have the opportunity to talk about what we might want to do. Since we have had a bit of a work session, we now have an opportunity to have thought about what you wanted. From our last work session, we talked about, Alderman Sistrunk talked about a library in particular. My desire was pretty much to extend Hospital Road and Stark Road, Hospital Road to 25 and Stark Road up to at least Hospital Road, if not further. Alderman Beatty was interested in a potential new fire station. Alderman Little was interested in expanding, at least adding some biking, walking opportunities down South Montgomery. Is that correct, Alderman Little?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And what any other calls? I can name a whole list. If somebody,
drainage was an issue.
I'm sorry?
Drainage.
That's right. And drainage was an issue. So, if I won the lottery, there are all kinds of projects I could come up with, not the least of which would be a new sanitation and water building, for example. Just lots and lots of projects. So since we've had a little bit of time to think about it, what I wanted to do is, particularly since everyone's on the phone, was to go around the room, or go around the telephone in the room, and see what other projects might have come to mind and what we might or might not be able to reach some unanimity on. Because the reality is that for us to be successful with the legislature, we need to be unanimous in our request. So with that in mind, it also occurred to me that if we chose like the top 2 or 3, we might be able to prioritize and put those requests in, and then let the legislature decide which ones they think are worth them spending time and supporting us on. So, our desires may be one thing, but the legislature may not see that as a program that they want to support. So if we gave them a couple of choices, we might be able to get unanimous feel from all of us on a prioritized list. So having said all of that, I will do what I normally do, which is kind of go around the room. And Alderman Vaughn, you're always a lot last, so I'm going to let you be first. The last should be first.
Well, man, we're talking with some of the citizens and some of the people in my ward. We thought about, we discussed about a new school, which I know the new high school. That high school been there. How long has it been there?
It was new when I was there, so I'm not even going to fess up. I graduated in 70, so we're talking 66, 67, somewhere in there.
A lot of discussed that, and then we thought about, if we just to build a school out there, that might cause some conflicts, and because the school would just being out there, but
the partnership school.
Yeah, the partnership school might be causing conflicts. Then we talked about a YMCA, something that we don't have around here, and those are a couple of things that we talked about, that really would benefit, and they don't like to say the drainage. We discussed those things.
Right. Okay. And we have been working on those in small
right.
projects. Right. So okay. All right. So I have school, a YMCA, or Boys and Girls Club, YMCA.
Because once if you get a YMCA, see the boys and girls can normally fit inside of that.
Okay. So YMCA, and then drainage, which again is something we've talked about in the past. Okay. All right. Vice Mayor Perkins, do you wish to?
Yes, ma'am, Mayor.
Weigh in, sir?
Yeah, very interesting. The gentleman from 7 mentioned those. As I prepare for this work session this evening, I was thinking about projects that would have, citywide application and great public interest from throughout the city. And certainly the gentleman from 7 mentioned those. And you never can go wrong with supporting education, a new school, YMCA area, and a couple things I'd like to add just for discussion. I certainly support those things. And last time there was also mention about the library being relocated to 182, and that is great because we as a city budget and appropriate many meals, at least a couple of meals roughly almost, for the library each year. And the library started growing, and I think if we could get some property on 182 for the library, that'd be really great. Of course, you mentioned connecting Stark Road and Hospital Road there together with the bypass. That would promote enhanced economic development. And so those are some, the gentleman from 7 mentioned those, new school, the YMCA, and those, they all sound good. I like the library at 182. I mean, the library is sort of a win-win situation. I support your idea of the Hospital Road extension. So we got some good talking points and some good topics to decide on. At least get down to a couple of choices. So I like that. So at least we're getting started some good discussion. So, but the key thing is trying to get a project as you mentioned, that would have some citywide interest from all the constituents that would benefit basically, the city as a whole. So, but those are my comments for now, Mayor. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Vice Mayor. Alderman Beatty.
Mayor, I like the idea of a new library. I think that's a worthy project from a capital project standpoint, something that we could probably do here, but if we could get some some money from the legislature and combine it with some local money and put us in a really new first-class library, that'd be a nice project. I'd support that. I still think that, and I'm just going to list quickly, and it's not necessarily, but put the library at the top of the.
That might Miss Sistrunk just absolutely ecstatic.
We've got drainage issues. Maybe we can take care of the drainage issues through our street department, through bonding. Edward, I guess. I mean, I don't know. Some of these drainage projects historically run up, they get expensive. And, if the state money or some state monies might be used as a local leverage to be able to go to through the PDD to U.S. Army Corps of Engineers or something and get a grant for a big project like that and use the state money for local. If you match 25% or 20%, something like that. Fire station keeps kind of fading down, but the only reason I mentioned it last time was that hopefully to provide even better fire protection in the future, if we're successful in our annexation efforts and in as much as we've improved our fire insurance rating and our commitments and things to Mississippi State, that a new central kind of headquarters, central kind of fire station located somewhere near, inside city limits, in the core of the city, but near the Highway 12 or something, along Highway 12, that would give easy accessibility to the MSU campus, the new annexed area, if we're successful with that, and house all of the future functions and things we're going to have for our fire department would be nice. Somebody mentioned last time downtown paving, maybe new sidewalks, landscaped areas and things like that. I mean, we come to, what is it, not Gillespie, Lafayette, what's the next street?
Russell. Lafayette.
No, next one east, Jackson Street.
Jackson.
But east of Jackson, from there up to where to, what's one road, something like that, or to South Montgomery or something, new pavement, new sidewalks, planted, the areas where you put your landscaping in, planters and things like that. Like we have downtown, extension of that would be nice. That's pretty much my.
Okay, well, if I may, I actually had lunch with a former alderman, and I mean like former, a long time ago former, in the 60s. And he was there when the library was built. The library used to be at the courthouse, and it wasn't used very well and was in the corner somewhere. And so they went to the state and actually got money to build the library that we currently have. So it's 60, it was just in the 60s. So it is a 60-year-old library, which is obviously going to be needing things as time goes on even further. But I was interested in that. I thought that was kind of germane to what we were talking about. So I thought that was interesting. Bill Green served in the 60s. So he said they built the library at that time. So I thought that was interesting. All right, Alderman Walker.
Yes, ma'am. I think all the projects that have been discussed thus far have a lot of merit, but I would rank in this category. I would go the street project, then the library project behind that. And then I would be absolutely supportive of a drainage project, but I think in order for the state funding to get drainage, you're probably talking something more along the line of large lake, large reservoir, and I'm not sure that we have the capacity for that type of drainage project. So expansion of the streets to the north would be, I think, a very viable project, and a new library would be something that would be viable. And then from there, I would look for something like the fire station. I agree with what the vice mayor said. Something that's going to be municipal in nature, I think, is probably the way to go.
All right, thank you, Alderman Walker. Alderman Little.
Yes, Mayor, thank you.
I'm sorry, real quick. I'm gonna get off the line. If I get done with what I'm doing right now, I will join back on. But I appreciate the opportunity to further discuss this. Thank you, everybody.
Well, thank you for joining us.
All right, Jason.
Thank you.
All right, Alderman Little, I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's okay. As Alderman Walker said, several of the projects all sound good. I agree with the Vice Mayor as well that something that's going to benefit everyone in the city. Albeit, I would like to see something as discussed down South Montgomery, some kind of greenway, running trails or walking tracks and so forth, biking, because just to safety issues and the growth we're having in South Montgomery, and we have no access to public parks right there within the ward. And so that's something that's near and dear to my heart. As far as the other projects I'm open to the library. I think that's great. I think it's long overdue, and we need to start having that conversation. Also, parking enhancements downtown, a parking garage. That's just a constant issue that comes forward. It seems like year after year, either parking meters or what can we do to have more parking. And it seems like it's constantly at the forefront. So I think that would impact a lot of folks, especially the many visitors we have coming in and out of town. Also, I think from a long-term perspective, I think the extension of Stark Road and Hospital Road out to 25 will have positive impacts, particularly with the Cornerstone Park development. I believe that's going to open up the western side of town, and it could go work hand in hand in tandem with developing that area as well. So I think we're going to see a lot of growth once this park gets up and running, and it might be time to be looking that direction for expansion of the road. So I'm I can go any direction. I think we've got some really good ideas, and I'm on board.
Okay, all right. Well, maybe we will pull a top three, and I'll touch base with Representative Robertson and see if we get greedy and ask for three, what that would mean. But I'll circle back. All right, Alderman Sistrunk.
All right.
Again, all wonderful projects, and I wish there were money to fund all of them. When I was trying to think through this, in addition to talking to various people, I was trying to figure out what were the most important things for me to be looking at. And one, I'd like something that would benefit the most people possible. Two, I'd like for it to be something that is a fairly immediate need, and that's my only real concern about something like the Hospital Road project, is that while there is a need, it may not be an immediate need. And then the third thing I was thinking about was what would we want to have that the city is not likely to fund in the immediate future. And we will eventually fund a drainage project, and we will eventually build another fire station when the time is right for that. And so I had kind of settled on three things: the library, the parking downtown, enhancement of that, and then the Rails to Trails project, which is similar to what Alderman Little was talking about, but not specific to Ward 3. Each of them has its own challenges. Each of them has its own positives. I'm going to make the pitch for the library and tell you why I kind of landed there. It is, as you learned today, a building that's 60 plus years old. It is a building that was designed in the 1960s and is not really designed for the kind of things that a library should be in a community these days. A library is a true community project. the building needs modernization. They need more meeting space so that groups can take advantage of it. They need teen space so that that group can be better served. They need to update technology in there, perhaps add a maker space, a workshop space to allow them to do some things that they just don't have room to do right now. They need better handicapped accessibility in that building. That was not something that was even anticipated in the 60s. So in addition to just an overall modernization effort, the building is at that point where they're about to have some pretty significant repairs. And that building does belong to the city. And so we will be on the hook for the repairs. That includes an HVAC system that could easily be $250,000. There's a leak in the law library area. They have their own drainage problem in the back of the building. They need to, if they were to provide tech services, they would need to rewire for that sort of thing. They're still functioning with old fluorescent lights and need to convert to LED lights to save with utilities, that sort of thing. So those are the kind of the benefits that come from this. By putting a building like that on Highway 182, it almost becomes a part of this build grant as a way to revitalize 182. And it could be anywhere from Montgomery to Jackson to Washington. You know, there would be a property acquisition that would have to occur, but it could be anywhere along in there. Putting the library there and putting parking there for the library gives you sort of a head start on some downtown parking, and allows you to have a place, particularly after hours. And I think there's a small need maybe for some downtown parking during the daytime now, but after hours there may be as much of a need. So the library serves three purposes. It serves that idea of a community benefit with a municipal building. It's a jump start on development on 182, and it addresses some of the parking needs downtown. Not all, but some. And in terms of how many people it serves, I had a chance to call the library director today, and he tells me that pre-pandemic, they had installed door counters, and they were tracking how many people came through the library. And it was running 12,000 to 14,000 people a month. So lots of people come. It supports education. It supports all across the community. It supports all sorts of things. And it could be so much more if they had the space and the facility that they needed. Now, having said that, I could get on board with a parking garage. I love the YMCA Boys and Girls Club idea, rails to trails. Those are all things. The greenways in the South Montgomery area. Those are all things that are going to be difficult for us to do on our own, and we will probably need some outside help. But I think for me, the prioritization would be the library, parking downtown, rails to trails.
Okay, well, I'm gonna have to throw cold water on the rails to trails.
I know.
Well, no, I mean, really, 'cause
and that's what I said. Each of these has
well, no, I mean
problems.
real cold water,
Oh, okay.
as in freezing you.
As in, no, okay.
Well, and I say that
scrap
because
that one.
I emailed the Watco folks again because they've been very good about getting back with me. And she came back to me and said that they not only have a 15-year lease, but their 15-year lease does not allow them to sublease at all or to do anything with that property. So at the very least, 15 years.
It is 15,
what it is.
It's been 15 plus, so
Yeah,
we'll
it'll
just
be
add
another,
15 more.
yeah,
Okay.
apparently so. So anyway, the Watco thing,
Well,
I think
then,
is
I would
definitely.
probably move the YMCA Boys and Girls Club up then
Okay,
to my third
all
spot.
right. Okay, and Alderman Carver had texted me and said that he is out of town. So, as we circle back around to see if we can get into some sort of top tier of three, shall we say. Obviously, the library seems to have risen to the top. So, if anybody wishes to disabuse me of that date, Alderman Little, you were okay with the library rising to the top, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. That's what it seems like. It's kind of keeps floating up there, listening to everyone's comments, and I'm good with it. I think there's definitely a need there,
Okay.
and we need to go ahead and start having that conversation because it may be several years out still, but you got to start somewhere.
Okay, all right, well, here's where I was gonna go with that. Let's go with the library for a discussion point for the time being. The thing that I think needs to be part of this is, finding out what is the cost per square foot for the newest library we can locate. And if the Episcopal Church property is a potential location, which is right there on 182, then there's a chance for looking at what that footprint would look like and how that can be a joint effort, because property acquisition will be a huge issue unless we go where we are right now, or unless we have a benefactor of some kind with whom we can make that share.
Mayor, wouldn't that corner property, we could ultimately, sell it at some point? That's prime real estate on University.
Oh yes, no, I absolutely agree, but you'd have to it's not unlike what we're doing with Cornerstone. You have to move out of there before you ever do anything with it. But yeah, that would be a huge offset and a huge opportunity. It's a nice location there, with frontage actually on 3 sides when you look at it, because you've got the parking lot going back to Lampkin, you've got the side street of Jackson, and you've got the north side of University. So yeah, it's a really good piece of property, but you'd have to get somewhere else first, or else decide you're going to renovate. And so that would be question number one: is new or renovate? And I'm inclined to think new probably would be better, given the order of magnitude of the changes that a library is probably going to need, based on IT and all the things that go with that. So anyway, I would say if we could figure out how to get a dollar amount that would make sense for us to go forward to ask for, then maybe we can talk to our favorite architects. We know some architects who might be willing to talk to us about what a library is going for in terms of square footage these days, and see what other ways that we can look to get an amount that makes sense to go to the legislature with. And if you want to extend those conversations with Reverend Jones, then that might be something to do.
The Episcopal Church owns the lot next to the dress shop there at the corner of Montgomery and 182, and it's a difficult lot in a way, in that the topography is not the best, but it is a large empty space that they don't use and have not developed any plans for the near future. I know that they would like to have parking ability more than they do now, and their hours will not conflict with the libraries as a rule. So that's a possibility that they might partner with us about that. But I would be open to any space along 182 where there are enough pieces of property that could be put together to be that jump start. And it would, while I love the idea of the Episcopal Church and what it could do there, I also love the idea that we could take some of those buildings that have become pretty run down and raise them and put a nicer civic building in there somewhere.
Yeah, I think that'd be great. Once you spend the money to buy land,
it just adds on.
You've chewed up a lot of your funds for actually constructing a building. So that was sort of the reason I said the Episcopal Church opportunity might be a really strong opportunity for us in there, and it doesn't take it too far from where it is right now, to be perfectly honest. So. Anyway, but
does the new library have to be bigger or just more modern?
I think it just needs to be modernized. It's poorly laid out right now, and it's just not designed for what people use libraries for these days.
I bet we could demolish that library and build on that site, probably the same price. If we got the same, we could go out and buy land from Episcopal Church or somewhere like that.
I'm not, when we talk about the Episcopal Church, I would not approach them with the idea of purchasing that
Leasing.
property, not even leasing it, just doing a joint venture so that they would have access to the parking.
Well, and their conference rooms, I mean, I think we probably would end up building a larger library. Just, how many square feet is that?
It is, with,
I mean, yeah, it's not the center of downtown, that's center of Starkville, I mean, pretty much.
it really
much.
is. I think that's where they know, I think that's where they
And that's
number
where
from.
you got your students, well, you know, University Boulevard is now a lot of foot traffic and bike traffic.
Yeah.
I mean, it's accessibility at the library, if you stay on that site and just built new and built up and built
Yeah.
what you want and that kind of thing, creates more parking would probably be
And that's a possibility. One of the things that we learned from redoing the police station was how expensive renovation is compared to new construction, that it's 2/3, 3/4,
Yeah,
2/3 as
yeah.
much, so.
I don't think you'd be saving money, because you're gonna have all the demolition, hauling off, and you may have, maybe the.
You'd probably have to
It's
acquire
I
property.
mean, it was built when?
Yeah, it's in the 60s, in
So, I
the
mean,
mid-60s.
so that would probably offset any savings. It would probably be a wash with maybe what you'd spend if you bought a lot somewhere or something like that potentially. So, but if you like the location and you can build up and create parking there by reconfiguring or something and going up to a two-story or something like that,
Or
the
three.
location's certainly really good.
Yeah, it is. Well, and so that would be something, again, for us to spend a little time just thinking about, and maybe get an architect to take a look at it and see what that would look like. So, all right, so I'm hearing that library seems to be rising to the top. So secondarily, does anybody want my roads?
Yeah, I like either the YMCA or the roads.
Yeah,
and
well,
stuff.
and the YMCA, how is that structured in Columbus, Alderman Vaughn, do you know?
No, man, they got two over there, I don't know.
Oh, they have two?
They got two.
I didn't know
But
that.
those
I knew they
city-owned
had
buildings,
one.
you know,
I really don't know.
Probably not. I don't know
What
either,
was-
but.
No, I don't
I
think
mean, I don't
that.
know if YMCA is 501c3, what are YMCA?
501c3, I think, I feel sure they are, yeah.
So, that
So,
doesn't mean the city couldn't build at least.
well, no, it absolutely does not, it absolutely does not. So, and that would be, yeah, and I don't know what's required, because like the Boys and Girls Clubs has requirements for exactly what it is that must be within that footprint, or they must have access to. And I don't know anything about,
Call Mayor Smith and see.
okay, okay, all right, so. All right, well, my roads just fell to 3, so.
Well, your road, maybe your road idea is forward thinking. That's thinking future, city start, leaving us on the west side of town. That part of town's gonna develop. That's a 4-lane highway out there, and it connects with another 4-lane highway about a mile north of where you're talking about. And Stark Road's crowded, you know, an extension of Stark Road up to hospital, and then teeing in the hospital that goes out 25. That's very forward thinking.
Well, that was nice.
No, I mean,
Can I throw that one in as number 3?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I like that.
We'll see if we can put something together. Okay, so, all right, so somebody disabuse me. Am I hearing a library one, and then researching the YMCA as an option? Is that correct? I don't want to put the words in your mouth there, Alderman Little or Vice Mayor.
Well, they all sound good, Mayor. I don't have any opposition to any of them. Certainly, we can get some dynamics for the YMCA, some specs on that. That'll be great. But you know, the projects that's a great idea. You know, whatever my other colleagues want to do, but it's something that's worthy of consideration. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right, well, we'll explore that one, and then explore the extension of hospital and the extension of Stark. And I only know that one because Alderman, I'm sorry, I elevated you, Mr. Kemp.
Or maybe not.
Edward's class, yeah, or not, I, you know, cast aspersions on you. Edward's class did a project on it, and so being able to throw some dollar numbers to that is not too difficult, just because of what has already been done in a rough way. Is that an accurate statement? Okay. So if we can I pursue those 3?
Mayor, maybe at the same time that we do the library, it'd be an opportunity for us to put in planters, you know, and the new wider sidewalks and stuff, and and new road surface and stuff, and maybe we bond on that side, and maybe part of our bond money becomes our local part of the money we gotta have for the library, and you put both those together as a package for you.
Well-
That downtown area from about South Montgomery down to not Lampkin, but Jackson Street. That whole-
Montgomery
that-
to Lampton,
that
I
would
mean
be
to
that
Jackson,
area,
yes.
folks doing the street and stuff
Yes.
on right there, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, as a matter of fact, one of the things that I am, we discussed the street policy a couple of meetings ago, and that's gonna come forward at this board meeting as to how we deal with that, but I am really excited about the opportunity to take Main Street and do what you're talking about and make it
Tell you
happen.
pavement on through down to City Hall.
Yeah.
Because when those cameras raise up and show, it's,
Yeah.
people add to Georgia see those cracks and.
Hush.
It's not bad pavement, and nothing about, talking about street part or anything, it's just a function of money, and we spread our money and utilize our money probably as well as any city in the South. It's just a function of money, and we just, if we could come in some money, we could go in, mill that, and put a new asphalt surface down, it'd just be nice, without that.
Well, we will have that policy in front of us, and I haven't gotten any changes to it. I haven't heard from anybody about it, so we're gonna bring it forward at the next board meeting. I think there was one change that was made on a street, but other than that, we'll bring that one forward, so y'all see that at the work session on Friday. So, all right, well, I have my marching orders. Does anybody want to give me any other instructions as it stands right now? I'm gonna go see if I can find a willing architect to look at something for us. Pro bono if I can get him or her, and look and see what that might be. And then, are you gonna talk to Mayor Smith for us?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, for the YMCA, and then the extension of the roads. So, are we good with that? Okay. Alderman.
Mayor,
Alderman
when you
Oh,
say,
that's great. That sounds great. I'm fine with all three.
Okay,
when you
thank
say
They're great.
extension, I'm sorry, Mayor, when you say extension of Stark Road, could we also look at the widening and curb and guttering and widening the existing Stark Road in this project?
Oh, we can look
That
at
would be
anything
nice.
we want to look at. We can look at anything you want to look at, and if you want to
That's
add that to it.
Sidewalks, stuff like that.
That I think that road is for longer term planning and vision. I think that's something that we need to look and if we're going to go that route. And I like that idea as well. We can go with a couple different asks and let them start kind of cultivating those seeds over the next couple of years. We may not get anything this year or the next, but after they see it, and who knows? Just like Rob was saying the other night, we're not going to get it if we don't ask. That's one thing that's certain.
Absolutely, no question. Let me turn to Edward here real quick. Have we looked at widening of Stark and adding curb and gutter?
Mayor, let me add on. Maybe recognize real quickly.
Yes, Vice Mayor, go ahead.
Yeah. I just want to concur with the gentleman from 3 as we talk about extending Huntsville and Stark. There was back in the 90s, Mayor. There was a lot of discussion, but the prior boards never had any movement in that direction. Certainly, we need to do that now than later. There was some discussion about extending Stark Road in terms of widening it. Rather, there was some discussion about widening Stark Road even before we had all that growth and development. Because in the early 90s, all that now Crossgate and all the area to the west of Stark Road, which used to just be pasture land, particularly in my first term, and all that development came open. But there was some discussion about widening that road at that time when it would be less cumbersome. But there was no movement on it. But certainly, I think we need to, as the gentleman from 3 said, we need to go ahead and pursue that. That road is highly traveled, heavy traffic, large volumes of traffic. We travel that road, just about daily, coming from the post office, coming home, or there about other areas. So, that's a very prudent suggestion and coming from the gentleman from 3. So all that needs to be included with the extending of Stark over to Huntsville, but it's certainly, that needs to be incorporated into the scope of work. So and the only reason I actually recognized before you brought the engineer on, there has been some discussion in the past, that was way before Mr. Kemp's time, but there had just been no movement on it. And back then, there were great opportunities to widen Stark Road, but it just it just wasn't the willingness to devote the financial resources to do that. But yeah, we need to do that, Mayor.
All right, thank you, Vice Mayor. I think we've got plenty of right-of-way there. So have we ever looked at what it would cost to do
I
that?
think that back in the early 2000s, there was an idea about widening Stark Road, and I'm sure there was some cost figures put to that, but we haven't studied it since then.
Okay, would that take you very long to gear up
We
to
would,
take a look at that?
Yeah, it would take a little time, but we could put a ballpark cost. And
There you go.
Couple it with the other extension
Okay.
projects.
All right, if you would take a look at that then. All right, well, that's great. Thank you, Alderman Little. That's, I hadn't calculated that one into the mix, so I appreciate that.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right, so anything else, anyone? Anything else anybody wants to talk about? We've got a work session coming up at 10 o'clock on Friday, so if there's anything else that comes up between now and then, we can certainly talk about it, but, I'm sorry, I thought maybe you were raising your hand. Okay, all right. Yes, sir.
I just think we putting the high school so far back. How long has school really been? You say
Um,
on that one?
Well, no, it was, I wasn't kidding, the late 60s. I graduated from that, so it was fairly new. They went from Greensboro to there, and so that would be 66, 67. But that is more, I mean, we certainly can support it, but that's more a school function
School function. yeah,
than
that's what
it is us. But we
Okay.
certainly, if they come forward with that as a desire, and my understanding from Dr. Passant is that they are looking at expanding to the south, because they've got property and they're talking about acquiring some more property perhaps to the south, to make that entire complex work for them. But I don't know what kind of timeline they're looking at,
Okay.
so.
Yeah,
But
know that's looking at
I
that.
absolutely, I mean, I love that school because obviously I have an affection for it, but I'm sure others do
You the
not
first
necessarily.
graduating class?
Oh, no,
I mean, in that school?
no, not in the school, not the first graduated class, no. There were a couple that graduated ahead of me, but it was that time frame, same time frame, so.
That's a road that could use some attention too there in front of the high school. So.
Okay, all right. Well, if there's nothing else then, I will, and I need to let y'all know, Alderman, that Mr. Latimer is not gonna be joining us. He had to go, in the hospital. I'm sparing his business here, but he is gonna be unavailable, let's just say, for at least on Friday, and I expect
He's
unavailable
getting his fixed.
on Tuesday. No, he had something else going on, so.
Yeah,
anyway.
I texted him last night and his wife sent me a text back.
Yeah.
Told me that she would take him to the hospital.
Yeah, yeah. So anyway, we will wish him the best. And certainly, since we last met, we lost Mayor Camp, which was certainly a great personal loss, a great community loss. And so we will do our best to do a good job of remembering him as well as we go forward. So anyway, all right. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate you being here this evening, and we will move ahead. So we are adjourned.
Oh,
Good night, everyone.
All right,
night.
bye-bye.
Good night.
Thank you.